Grayson on the track.
Christian Laettner, J.J. Redick, Grayson Allen. These three names have become synonymous over the years for everything college basketball fans love to hate. In the eyes of many, these players symbolize the privilege and prestige of the overhyped and overrated Duke basketball player. But with every opinion for why someone is overrated, there must lie evidence for why they receive such hype in the first place. From an unbiased point of view, each of these players have contributed to iconic moments in the history of both Duke basketball as well as college basketball in general. But yet, while Redick and Laettner left Duke with their legacies etched in stone, it is still a mystery as to how Allen's story will finish. The rising senior has shown consistent stretches of brilliance for times in his career, only to leave coaches and viewers wondering what the hell he was thinking at other times. With only one season left in his college career, it is safe to say this is going to be the make or break year for his future pro aspirations. As the 21st ranked basketball player in the ESPN class of 2014, Grayson Allen was part of one of the greatest Duke recruiting basketball classes of all time. Along with the future one-and-done guys like Jahlil Okafor, Justice Winslow, and Tyus Jones, Allen tried his best to fit in as the fourth best freshman on that team. Unfortunately, due to the veteran presence of Quinn Cook and Matt Jones, Allen spent most of his time on the bench in his first-year campaign. Before discussing his eventual shine later in the NCAA tournament that year, it is important to recognize Allen openly admitted in an interview that he had lost confidence as a result of his time on the sidelines.
But, I'll admit personally that I did lose confidence last year.
Of course, as all Duke basketball fans know, Allen regained his confidence just in time for the 2015 NCAA basketball tournament, in which he provided the necessary energy to defeating both Michigan State in the Final Four and then Wisconsin in the national championship game. With the Blue Devils down 9 points in the second half and truly hanging on by a thread against Wisconsin, Grayson experienced his "a star is born" moment by putting Duke on his back for a considerable stretch by knocking down huge buckets and delivering key hustle moments and giving Coach K his fifth national championship. After a high of that magnitude, it was easy to ponder whether Grayson was truly fit for a centerpiece role on a team that featured Lakers rookie Brandon Ingram the next season. Yet with all the previous three freshmen already mentioned bolting for the NBA draft, it was clear Grayson was going to get that opportunity. As I alluded to in discussion of his confidence, Allen is a player whose mental preparation is critical for his success. Although it is fair to say that this is the case for every single basketball player who plays on the court, I think there are players for which it means that much more. In his sophomore season, Grayson quite honestly had one of the best second-year seasons I can remember for a Duke basketball player, averaging 21.6 points per game, 4.6 rebounds per game, and 3.5 assists per game, while shooting a silky 46.6% from the field and 41% from three. Apart from a few slip-ups against the likes of Kentucky early on, Allen looked like one of the best college basketball players in America. In my opinion, what made Grayson so successful was his canny ability to play off just pure instinct. Unlike some players who are very calculating in their approach on how they tackle the defense, Allen was a guy who often trusted his gut on the fly and making the right play. And it definitely worked a lot in 2016, as his driving ability produced countless trips to the line and highlight reel slam dunks. Yet what was most important for Allen's NBA draft profile was his top-notch shooting ability. From a basketball standpoint, everything starts for Allen's game on the notion that defenses must challenge hard on his shot. As a result, the rip-through drives and playmaking potential are given that much more of a boost in improving Grayson's overall offensive versatility. So despite the tripping incidents that occurred against Florida State and Louisville this year, Grayson showed he was deserving of being a first-round pick in the 2016 NBA draft. But with the NBA calling his name just a year ago, Allen made the fateful decision to come back for his junior campaign, without even taking into account the roster for a moment. This was clearly a risk for his future draft stock because it meant more time for scouts to hone in on his weaknesses before committing to him as a player. Further, this also meant Allen would give opposing ACC teams another year to exploit his game with a full offseason to scout how to prepare for him next. And now, if we return to the roster dilemma, Grayson willingly came back with the knowledge of another top freshman class entering the Duke family. In particular, St. Louis's very own Jayson Tatum looked to be the main scoring option with his combination of length and offensive versatility. So without any pause for dramatics, as the junior season turned out for Grayson, pretty much everything that could have gone wrong did go wrong for his draft stock. In short, the risks associated with returning worked out to a T, and all of a sudden, Allen looked like an afterthought in regards to his potential to play in the NBA. After his best performance of the season against UNLV on December 10th, Allen struggled to find his place in the lineup alongside Tatum and the other highly offensively talented player in Luke Kennard. As we compare his sophomore season to his junior year, it is obvious there was some major regression all across the board. Some of this can be credited to no longer being the number one option, but weird enough is that his field goal percentage dipped by almost 7% in taking less shots. I can point to a couple of things that reflect this phenomenon, but in my opinion, what I believe changed his play for the worse this year was the Elon tripping incident on December 21st. Now, I really want to avoid making a judgment call on his character because I know Grayson is overall a good kid who means well. In truth, I highly doubt NBA execs are too concerned about these incidents anyways, as they are with Allen's overall play. Having said this, I do think the pushback from media, as well as his own coach suspending him for a game, made him reconsider the way in which he approached the game. You see, similar to a guy like Draymond Green, Grayson is a player that feeds off his emotion, and when he's able to channel it correctly, things just fall into place when he's playing off of instinct. Once Allen returned from his suspension, I feel like his confidence was not at the point it was just a year prior, and his style of playing off instinct was just not effective. Sometimes it felt like he was driving at the wrong time, shooting at the wrong time, and just lacked the overall steadiness of a player with almost 3 years of ACC basketball under his belt. Although he did battle some ankle injuries on and off throughout the second half of the year, his struggles in juxtaposition to Kennard's All-American play really made it clear how far he had fallen. It's not to say he didn't have good moments for Duke this season after the suspension, evident from the Carolina game, but his consistent struggles made him an easy target for draft scouts to drop him out of the 2017 first-round mock drafts. Yet fortunately for Grayson, he still has a full year to turn it around and work on the issues that appeared this year in his game. From my perspective watching Duke this season, I think there are 5 key areas I believe Allen needs to improve in to hear his name called in the first round next year. Number 1 is finding the consistency in his shooting mechanics. Now I'm hoping I can find clips to prove my point because college basketball game replays are much harder to find, but I noticed this year that Grayson's mechanics on a game-to-game basis could greatly differ at times. Even going back to the blue-white scrimmage in October, I remember filming a bit of Allen's shooting motion, thinking he was really trying to optimize the speed of his release. In turn, I noticed at this fast pace, sometimes he didn't finish on his follow-through, and his legs could land all over the place. Along with this, Grayson often settled for very long threes that actually extended way beyond the NBA three-point line. Shots that encourage inconsistent mechanics at such a deep range. Sure, I've seen him hit plenty of these before in his Duke career, but this is definitely not the most optimal shot. When things are right with his mechanics as a whole, Allen quite arguably has one of the purest looking jump shots in all of college basketball, as he only shot 36% from 3 this year. An improvement in this area will reaffirm his status as a potential knockdown shooter on the pro level. Number 2 is finding a counter to the out-muscle strategy against perimeter defenders. This one is not only a big one for Grayson, but a lot of other above-average athletes in college basketball who exploit this type of style routinely. Actually, it's not too different from what LeBron James likes to do in the NBA. In short, Allen's driving prowess has been predicated on out-muscling and essentially bulldozing by the defender that is guarding him. One of his favorite moves off the catch is the pump fake hard straight line drive. Often, this puts a lot of pressure on the defense to either foul or collapse, as Allen can be pretty deadly when going downhill. While this has been a successful strategy against 60 to 70% of the teams he faces in college, this will inevitably backfire as players in the NBA are obviously bigger, stronger, and longer. Seeing him go up against teams like Miami, Clemson, and South Carolina, who have much longer perimeter defenders on average, really showed this weakness in this type of game, as Allen shot a horrendously poor 25% from the field in 4 total games against these squads this year. To prove to scouts that he is capable of scoring on NBA-type perimeter defenses, Allen will benefit greatly in adding some shiftiness on his drives. Ironically, this segues very nicely into the next area Grayson should improve in for next year, which is his ball handling. While Allen often played de facto point guard for a Duke team lacking a true floor general this year, it was sometimes tough to watch Grayson bring the ball up, as he struggled at times against even some of the most token ball pressure. Despite being listed at a generous, and I mean generous, 6'5", Allen does not possess the build of a true NBA shooting guard, so he's going to have to lean heavily on his playmaking ability, similar to a combo guard, to be effective. With more and more guys like Bradley Beal and CJ McCollum successfully transitioning to the true 2 position despite smaller size, there remains a chance for Grayson to get there if he gets his handles up. Familiar to his battle against bigger perimeter defenders, the fourth area Allen should try to improve on is his finishing ability. Interestingly enough, one of the biggest knocks on Grayson from his sophomore season was his showing against Kentucky, in which the length of Kentucky bigs really gave Allen trouble when he got near the paint. As even some NBA players struggle with finishing at the rim consistently, this is something that may be the hardest to overcome. Shooting only 44% from 2-pointers this season, Allen has some work to do to show scouts he should not just be considered an outside shooter. Since he won't be able to elevate over NBA defenses like he does at times in college, the best bet for Grayson may be to continue to work on his in-between game, as well as finishing in areas that encourage the floater rather than attacking all the way to the rim. Finally, and what I think ties all these things together, is his consistency in having the right mental approach. Although I personally think the media coverage of his outbursts were highly overblown, there is no debate as to Grayson's play being a product of his confidence. As you've seen in his own words how important it is to him to mentally prepare for each game, the emotion that he feeds off cannot be compromised when looking for a spot in the NBA next season. With all that being said, I am highly optimistic in Grayson's potential to have a bounce-back year that could bring him All-American consideration. We've already seen what he can do for a full season when his mind is right, and a return to his sophomore year is very possible. If he brings Duke to another Final Four, he could also be considered as a player to get his jersey retired, something that hasn't been done in over 10 years. So while Grayson can still expect a lot of hate next year from college basketball fans, he should consider the sweetest revenge being a selection in the first round of the 2018 NBA draft. Because out of all the trips in his career, that one might just be the coolest.